I know this is belated, but I want to extend my condolences to you Dodger fans. I know this is a lot earlier than you anticipated the season concluding. As a lifelong fan of Philadelphia sports, I know what heartbreak is like. I hesitate to raise my own kids as Philly fans because despite this aberrant season, the Philadelphia Phillies still own the title as the losingest team in professional sports, with over 11,000 losses. Now, the upside of rooting for perennial losers is that for much of my childhood, ticket availability wasn't a problem. I grew up getting to see all kinds of games live I'd never get to see if our team was, good. I was thinking about this recently, not just because the Phillies are in the series and at the time of filming, the Eagles boasting an undefeated season. Rather, I was thinking about it for a way to explain the nuance we see in Acts. I think drawing on an analogy from the sporting world helps. Now, in most professional sporting events, when the starting lineup for the home teams are announced, the star players are almost always announced last, right? Because the anticipation is the greatest, the fans are on their feet, the cheers are longest and loudest for the best player. If Kobe, LeBron, or MJ were announced third in the middle of the lineup, like any sporting fan watching would think, well, that was kind of weird. Now take that understanding to the first century. Now, the same conventions existed, except in public speaking, the person who got the last word was most important, like James at the Jerusalem Council. Now, in writing, it's not the names mentioned last, but first that are most important. I mentioned this when we looked at Paul's first missionary journey. We see a switch from Barnabas and Paul at the beginning of chapter 13 to Paul and Barnabas as Paul moves into the lead role. Or if you look at a list of the disciples in the Gospels, Peter was always named first, not because he was the first one called. Were that the case, first position would go to Andrew, not Peter. It's because Peter was the leader. Where am I going with this? In Acts 18:2, Paul found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. See, then in Acts 18:18, we're told after staying there for a considerable time, Paul said farewell to the believers, sailed for Syria, accompanied by Priscilla and Aquila. At Cenchrea, he had his hair cut, for he was under a vow. Do you see what just happened? Luke moved Priscilla's name into first position in front of her husband. Again, in verse 26, at the correction of Apollos, her name is in first position. Priscilla and Aquila heard him. They took him aside and explained the way of God to him more accurately. In the New Testament, these couples' names appear 6 times, or I should say this couple's name appears 6 times, with Priscilla's name appearing first 4 times, while Aquila's appears first twice. Some suggest the reason behind the ordering is that Priscilla was of a higher social status than her husband. But one's social status is never employed in any other situation in the New Testament, nor does such status hold any value within the minds of those formed by the gospel. I'm not suggesting we form a doctrine based on name order alone. What it should compel us is to take notice. Notice of the vital role that this woman played along with her husband in the advancement of the gospel. Now, whereas some might suggest that the Bible devalues women, others on the opposite side of the continuum suggest the appropriate place for Christian women is in the home. Now, what this passage, along with Paul's words in Romans 16, tell us is that the appropriate place for women is in the thick of it, working alongside the apostle, co-laborers in Christ and risking their necks for his name. And all the churches are grateful for that service. I know I am. Just as it takes male and female to reflect the image of God, it takes all of us, to make him known. Have a blessed week.